Welcome, everybody. We are excited to see our numbers growing. We're nearly touching that 1,000 mark. And we're about to get started. Welcome to this 2021 Mayoral Forum hosted by Calgary Alliance for the Common Good and ActionDignity. I'm Dr. Beth Stovell. I'm a professor and chair of General Theological Studies at Ambrose University. I'm also the chair of co-chair for Truth and Reconciliation for Calgary Alliance. The Calgary Alliance is a nonpartisan and nonprofit alliance of 32 congregations, unions, schools, and community groups in Calgary. We represent more than 37,000 people. These organizations came together to form Calgary Alliance for the Common Good in order to organize the power of our communities to shape a just and compassionate city. We are thankful for your presence tonight to work towards the common good in Calgary.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wengel Kabede. I am the Finance Administrator for ActionDignity. I want to welcome you all to the 2021 Mayoral Forum. ActionDignity is a nonpartisan community-based organization that facilitates the collective voice of Calgary's ethnocultural communities. ActionDignity has built leadership and organizational capacity in Calgary's racialized ethnocultural communities and enhanced the presence and participation of members of these communities in civic activities and public consultations. And with that, I would like to thank Calgarians for joining us tonight and each candidate present here today for their participation in this forum. We are hosting this event to give you all an opportunity to engage with the individuals that will be making major decisions in the next 4 years in our city. We want to create a platform where you can gather information on issues that are close to your hearts and homes. We want to empower you to vote for candidates that best represent you, will listen to you, and advocate for the needs of your community and our city. When you go out to vote on October 18th, please note that you will not only be voting for a new mayor, but new city councilors and school board trustees. Collectively, these individuals will have a tremendous impact on the quality of life in our city.
You may be wondering how we chose our 4 mayoral candidates to speak tonight. We just thought, we'll just start with people whose first names start with J. No, I'm just kidding. We actually had 2 parts of our selection process. First, we chose candidates who were at the top of the polls at the time of their initial invitation. And second, we asked our member organizations who did they want to hear from, and they chose these particular candidates. Thus, our candidate choices reflect the concerns and interests of our member organizations.
The way we're going to approach this evening is by starting off with land acknowledgement and a blessing from Indigenous elder, then proceed to a short video from the community, followed by a quick introduction of the candidates here today, and then to the meat of the forum, which is the questions. We have 6 pre-recorded questions. The order of the candidates during the question period have been selected. Each candidate will have a first round of 90 seconds to respond to the questions, followed by 15 seconds for additional remarks. At the end of the question period, so once we've gone through all 6 questions, candidates will have 1 minute for closing statements. I want to remind candidates to please respect the clock. Again, you have 90 seconds to respond to the questions. If you are talking past that time, we will mute you and move on because we would like to give every candidate an equal opportunity to respond to the questions. We tried to have American Sign Language interpreters with us here today as well. Unfortunately, they were unable to accommodate the request. We have enabled live transcription, which can be found at the bottom of the screen.
As you can see, this forum is divided into 2 groups. We have our moderators, our timekeeper, and our mayoral candidates who will be able to share their perspective with open microphones. And we also have you 1,000 guests who have joined us for the evening to hear from our candidates. For those who are guests, you will probably see already that we have a chat wall that you can access by using the chat button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We ask that all participate in the chat be respectful to the candidates and to one another. If we see any inappropriate comments by a guest, we may remove that guest from the Zoom call. Today is the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. This day honors the lost children and survivors of residential schools, their families and communities. It matters to us that we begin our event with Indigenous ceremony and by acknowledging Indigenous peoples. And so we begin with a land acknowledgement. Today, we acknowledge the land where we meet, the land of Calgary, called Milkinsis in the Blackfoot languages, as the meeting place where the Elbow meets the Bow River. We acknowledge not only the peoples of this land, but all of the living creatures who make their homes here. We acknowledge the Treaty 7 peoples, the Blackfoot Confederacy, called the Niitsitapi, whose land spans parts of southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, as well as northern Montana. We acknowledge the peoples of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai. We acknowledge the peoples of Tsuut'ina, Nakota, the Wesley, Chiniki, and Bearspaw. We also acknowledge the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. Finally, want to acknowledge all the Indigenous people who call Calgary home, who may be separated from their lands. As a settler, I am thankful to live in this treaty land, acknowledging that colonizers have not honored the treaties as we should. We acknowledge this land while committing to learning more about the nations whose land this is, committing to move towards justice and towards the good of all our relations through active involvement in positive change. We thank Creator for this land. I would now like to welcome Elder Doreen Healy of the Blood Tribe, who will be delivering our blessing and giving our smudge. We are thankful that Elder Doreen has worked closely with the Calgary Alliance over the years, sharing her wealth of wisdom and insight. Elder Doreen, would you please open us in the right way?
I about a few tricky looking and Christopher. Alda Kokana, just a bit taking moxie now big wax. And gets agri weeks, Hanox for mocking, and how thou matos mocking. Anoxikin mocking and cook talking, Nox for mocking and Nakito is so coconut. Anoxikin mocking and it's better. The capacity against the small spin. No goes and nanix, which the beam nanix. Anoxikin me some akita weeks, manita week, no can add the blossom. Council cheese to mix, council desk to cup of weeks. Anoxikin me size to the beam. Cakes to canoe and nanny, anoxikin looking and how one steak and no cheap looking. Maga is cheese to send his step of beam. Anoxikin looking and it's bad bill. As for walking now, thank you.
Thank you, Elder Doreen, for that smudge and blessing. We really appreciate you here today. Up next, we have a short series of clips from a few of our members. They will share their name, organization, and one hope they have for the city. Audience members, you can also participate in the chat. Please enjoy.
My name is Tina Balai, and I'm a member of Calgary Ethiopian Youth Alliance. And we would like to see free recreational activities and childcare in the Northeast and Greater Forest Lawn area.
And I represent Fair Trade Calgary. We're a volunteer group here, and we have about 15 to 20 active volunteers and steering committee members, as well as a network of over 2,000 people who follow us on social media. And one hope that I have for the city is for us to be finally Fair Trade designated, so to get that official designation of Fair Trade Town. But I also just want us to be an inclusive society.
Hello, my name is Jing Han, and I'm from ActionDignity. Together, we have over 50 staff members, and we're partnered with over 110 ethnocultural minority organizations. My hope for Calgary is that we can hear the diverse opinions and voices of everyone and make everyone feel socially included.
I'm Doug Chandler, representing the 300 members of Knox United Church at tonight's election forum. Knox strives to be a place where individuals in our downtown community can make connections with each other, with themselves, and with creation. We hope Calgary can be that kind of place too.
Hi, my name is Patricia Bernal. I am a community broker from ActionDignity for the Latin communities in Calgary, which has 82,000 members. My hope for Calgary is an urgent economic recovery and jobs for all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kiersey Bird, and I am the priest at St. Barnabas Anglican Church in the Northwest. We represent about 200 individuals and families. One hope for our city is that a spirit of collaboration and innovation will bring us together. Thank you very much to the Alliance for putting together this forum tonight.
My name is Christine Mcfarlane. I represent Ambrose University, a community of 1,000 students, faculty, and staff. My hope is for Calgary to be a place that supports mental health for all communities and cares about the right path towards truth and reconciliation.
Hello, I'm from the Anatolian Turkish Islamic Center of Calgary, and we are part of Calgary Alliance with more than 200 members. Our aim for Calgary is to create an interfaith dialogue among different beliefs and foster a multicultural environment by collaborating with various organizations and communities. We hope to establish a better, peaceful, tolerant, and respectful Calgary. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Hawksworth, representing Good Shepherd Moravian Church. Our congregation of over 100 have been members of the Calgary Alliance for the past 4 years. Our fondest hope for Calgary is that it would be governed by the golden rule, that Calgarians would treat each other the way that we ourselves would wish to be treated.
I'm Susan Podlog. I'm a member of Temple B'nai Tikva, the Reform Synagogue in Calgary. It has 300 members. My hope for the city of Calgary is that when the newly elected mayor and city councillors address the budget, that they carefully consider the economic divide in our city and plan for and develop access and support for resources and programs to help low-income individuals and families.
Hi, I'm Joan Lawrence. I'm co-chair of the Calgary Climate Hub. We represent 175 people and organizations, and my hope for the future of Calgary is climate action that is both fast and fair.
Hi, this is Andrew from Calgary on Purpose, and I represent the hundreds of Calgarians we have engaged with over the past couple of years, finding out what they think should be the renewed story of what Calgary is. For me, that is a city that looks to the future, prioritizes green space, recreational space, inclusivity, and reconciliation.
Hi, my name is Jane Ebern, and I'm president of Calgary Unitarians. We are proud members of the Calgary Alliance for the Common Good. At Calgary Unitarians, we strongly support the democratic process, both in our congregation and in society at large. Therefore, we urge you to vote in this very important Calgary election.
My name is Mizon Leka Evan, and I'm with the Cerebral Palsy Alberta. Our organization services the disability sector. My hope for our city, the city of Calgary, is to be more inclusive and to be accepting of citizens of all abilities.
Hi, my name is Dustin Withers. I'm the recording secretary for the Canadian Union of Public Employees, Local 37, City Calgary Outside Workers. And our one hope in this election is that we can keep Calgarians going. We've done it so far in the pandemic, and we hope to keep on going.
Hi, my name is Darcy Lanavaz, and I'm the president of QP Local 38, and we represent over 5,000 workers at the City of Calgary and Max and the Parking Authority. My hope for Calgary is that we can build a world-class city that provides opportunities for all Calgarians.
I am Tsaggai Gabre. I'm from the Eritrean community belonging to East Africa, which has an over 10,000 community members in Calgary. My hope for Calgary is a city of authentic equality that ends immigration systemic barriers on access to professional jobs, includes seniors, refugees, and all faiths. Above all, promotes youth and adult capacity building through affirmative training funds, so that they will never stuck in hard casual labor forever. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Isaac Gebretinsay. I'm the president of the Eritrean Canadian Community Association of Calgary. We have over 3,000 active members in our community, and we also have over 10,000 Eritreans residing in Calgary, and we are very proud of members of the Calgary Alliance for Common Good. My hope of Calgary is that we can become leaders in addressing inequity and create a society that's equitable and just for all Calgarians. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adi, and I'm with the Calgary Professional Chapter of Engineers Without Borders Canada. In Calgary, we're nearly 3,000 strong, and across the country, the broader EWE network is 30,000 strong. My hope for this city is that everybody plays their part in the political process, and we hold those we elect into office accountable, so no politician goes unchecked.
Thank you so much for sending in those videos. I believe we share your sentiments, and hopefully today we'll get to hear some answers. Moving on, we have 4 candidates gathered here today. I would like to invite each of them to introduce themselves. We will go in the order of Jyoti Gondek, Jeff Davison, Jeremy Farkas, and Jan Damery. You will have 1 minute each. We can start with Jyoti Gondek.
Thank you very much to everyone who organized the forum this evening. Calgary is very well poised for recovery by making a firm commitment to resilience, true resilience, where we commit to a greener, cleaner, and more sustainable economy across all of our sectors and industries, where we commit to taking action on the climate crisis by taking aggressive action on meeting emissions targets and by retrofitting our built form to be more efficient, where we commit to taking care of our most vulnerable citizens by building a more equitable, accessible, and compassionate society. We will need a mayor with a steady hand who can build a team that prioritizes the well-being of our citizens. I have the experience, the character, and the will to be that leader, the one who takes us towards opportunity and prosperity. I look forward to earning your support and achieving our many common goals together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti. And up next, we have Jeff Dickson.
Well, thanks everybody, and thanks for putting this on. While plans and efforts have already begun to fill up those empty floors in our downtown, we must learn to compete differently and accelerate economic recovery, which really gives us the ability to help more Calgarians that need a hand up. The fact is, Calgary doesn't recover unless every Calgarian recovers. But too many of our neighbors and friends have lost hope that a recovery will happen for them. My opponents on the far right want to tear Calgary down and say no consistently to economic recovery and the health of our citizens, while my opponents on the left would waste years studying and rethinking the things we already know we need to take action on. The more left-right a city council becomes, the more divisive it is. The more people then become marginalized and unheard as a result. It's unfortunate because what I hear from Calgarians is they want a plan to bring us together for the common good, a plan for a better economy, a plan for creating jobs, a plan for a safer, greener, accessible, and more inclusive city. It's time to get excited about Calgary again. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff Davison. Up next, we have Jeremy Farkas.
Hello, and thank you so much for this privilege to be here with you tonight for our inaugural National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. I grew up in East Calgary, in Dover, to a proud immigrant family. Many doors were closed to my parents, but as Calgarians, they worked so hard to make sure that those doors would be made open to me. And while we didn't have a lot of money, we did have a lot of opportunity. And over the past decade, I think Calgarians have struggled with lack of opportunity. We've witnessed the economy struggle, the tax burden increase, and the City Hall establishment becoming increasingly out of touch. I'm running for mayor to bring about real change, and I have the plan to do it. Please visit jeremy.ca to see my 10-point platform to help Calgarians get our city back on top and where we belong. And if elected mayor, I'd be focusing on 3 priorities. Firstly, a strong and growing economy based on financial responsibility at City Hall. Secondly, open and transparent government that better includes Calgarians. Third, secure and vibrant communities through support for our police and other essential services. My name is Jeremy Farkas, and I'm asking for your vote on October 18th. Change starts now.
Thank you, Jeremy Farkas. And lastly, we have Jan Damery.
Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here tonight. Thank you to the organizers. I'm Jan Damery, and I'm running for mayor because Calgarians deserve better. This is a critical election where we're talking about the future of our city, a city that we can build back better than before that includes everyone in this recovery. And I'm offering that our current councillors running for mayor don't deserve the promotion based on their track record. We have Jeremy Farkas that has consistently voted against COVID measures in a pandemic. We have Jyoti Gondek, who purports to be a progressive, yet has voted against the mental health and addiction strategy. And we have Jeff Davison, who is under investigation for breaking campaign finance laws. This is about leadership and ability to bring people together to do big things. And that is my track record in history, just with my background in working in all sectors and leading people to great things. I look forward to earning your support on October 18th. Thrilled to be here and thrilled for the conversation.
Thank you, Jan. We will now turn to our first question for our candidates.
This question on truth and reconciliation comes from our elder, Doreen Healy. We've placed this question first to honor the purpose of this national holiday and because truth and reconciliation matters deeply for the future of our city.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Doreen Healy, and I'm from the Blood Tribe in Southern Alberta. And I'm part of the reconciliation team for the Calgary Common Good Alliance. I'd like to make a comment and have two questions for you. My comment is the White Goose Flying Report has been out for 5 years, and it has been 6 years since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's final report was released. Indigenous elders and leaders have identified the following key areas to us: recognition of the Indigenous contribution to Calgary, reforming policing, setting aside land to build an Indigenous gathering place, as well as services and housing. My questions are, one, in the last 6 years, what have you done to advance truth and reconciliation? Second question, in the next 2 years, what are your top 3 priorities that you will take action on to advance truth and reconciliation? Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Doreen. We will now hear from our mayoral candidates in response to this question. We will start with Jan Damery and then move to Jeff Davison, Jody Gondek, and then Jeremy Farkas. Jan, please start us.
Thanks so much. And I'm so glad that we are starting with this question today on this first national holiday to recognize and really sort of reflect on truth and reconciliation. We need to move beyond platitudes, symbolism, and we need to move to action. And so I am, as mayor, committing to implement the calls to action in the White Goose Flying Report. This includes fully funding the Indigenous Relations Office and not making it contingent on land sales, requiring a yearly report on progress made on implementing calls to action, and including implementation of these calls of action in the performance measurement of city administrators. Many of you know, I'm on unpaid leave of absence, running for mayor from YWCA Calgary, and for the last 5 years have championed just truth and reconciliation in our organization, which has not been an easy journey, because we are a post-colonial organization at YWCA. But 50% of our clients in our housing programs are women who identify as Indigenous. And so understanding the barriers that they face, and I think something we need to do as a community is to come forward and really reduce the barriers to economic empowerment, as well as safety, as well as affordable housing. And these are all things that I'm committing to do as mayor. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jan. We'll now move on to Jeff Davison.
Thanks so much for the question. I think, I want to start by saying what I've learned in the last 6 years is that if we leave change to other people, change will never happen. And we must remain committed to actioning truth and reconciliation. I would prioritize economic reconciliation. I believe we must create a more equitable and inclusive society by closing gaps in social, health, economic outcomes that exist between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadians. Indigenous people must be able to participate fully in our economy. I would work with Indigenous and non-Indigenous partners to find real estate, infrastructure, gardens, and parklands for Indigenous ceremonies, cultural activities, those commemorations and healing areas. And certainly work to ensure that we have affordable housing that can address gaps that exist in the shelter for Indigenous individuals that are currently living in Calgary. I do want to point out too that I think it's really important to acknowledge and respect Calgary's Indigenous archaeological sites. And during my time on council, was able to actually uncover a site on the Paskapoo slopes. We have started purchasing the land there. There will be no development over one of the most historically relevant Indigenous gathering places within the Calgary border. And I'm so proud that I was able to bring that to council and have it approved. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Our next candidate is Jody.
Thank you. I've made it a priority to learn the things that I wasn't taught in school. I've attended meetings and events to speak with families about the intergenerational trauma that they've experienced. I've listened to stories from my friends who had not disclosed them in the past. And I've read the Truth and Reconciliation report. I've read the Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women report. I have read White Goose Flying. As a counselor, I pushed for signage change on the Reconciliation Bridge to be immediate, to precede the ceremony so we could show action. I have met with and committed to creating an Indigenous gathering space with community leaders who are best able to tell us where it's appropriately situated. I am committed to funding the Indigenous Relations Office and taking the actions that are in White Goose Flying. One of the ways to add to that budget is to ensure that a dedicated stream of revenue from land sales truly goes towards acknowledging the fact that we have to have reconciliation that's rooted in economic success as well. And I will continue to push for our provincial curriculum to have Indigenous history embedded within it so our children can learn proper history that I missed out on and many of us have not heard in its fullest form.
Thank you, Jody. Our next speaker and last of this question is Jeremy.
Thank you for the question. I've been a strong advocate for reconciliation since before my time on council. As a community association volunteer and a director of the Weaselhead and Glenmore Park Preservation Society, I advocated for close ties with the Tsuut'ina Nation. And as city councilor, I've continued to prioritize that work and work closely with our Tsuut'ina neighbors to ensure their success, as well as things like utility access for their wonderful Tazaa development. I've also been involved to help mediate points of tension with my Ward 11 communities. I've also advocated for some of the symbolic steps, such as the inclusion of Treaty 7 flags in the council chamber. And I think it's an important reminder for absolutely every single Calgarian that we're all treaty people. I've also pushed for more practical measures, things like supporting our Indigenous Relations Officer, as well as more Indigenous involvement as being very key to reforming our public art program. And I think with White Goose Flying especially, we have the roadmap that we need, but it's important to continue to empower our Aboriginal Affairs Committee so that recommendations they make don't just sit on the shelf. I'm going to continue to advance an Indigenous gathering place and advocate for proper funding for our police service. While I support alternative call response models, I don't support dangerous experiments to defund the police. And I think drastic cuts like that will only result in worse outcomes and delay the culture change that we need to better protect Indigenous peoples and communities. And I think supporting our police will continue to allow for meaningful changes, like increasing the number of Indigenous liaison officers.
Thank you, Jeremy. We now have 15 seconds for any additional remarks, and we're going to move in the same order, starting with Jan.
Oh, thank you. I'll just underscore how important it is to move to action. And we can't move on these priorities without dedicated funding. And it can't be contingent on land sales. And we certainly can't do this if we're committed to tax freezes or cuts. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jan. Jeff, do you have 15 seconds for anything additional?
Sure, thanks. I think the only person that radically defunded the police was Councillor Farkas by continually not voting in favor of their budget, voting against things like helicopters and body-worn cameras. I think it's irrational to believe that council is not being proactive in trying to do policing differently.
Thank you, Jeff. Jody, any additional remarks? 15 seconds.
One of the most important things we need to do is make sure that we are bringing Indigenous Calgarians onto our boards, committees, and commissions so that they can communicate their lived experience into the decisions that we make.
Thank you, Jody. Jeremy, you are our last person.
Thank you. What was said previously is just incorrect. As a police commissioner, I strongly advocated for appropriate resources. I want to mention I disagreed strongly with some councillors pushing to sell off city parks. I want to move quickly to be able to prohibit the sale of Calgary parks for short-sighted development so that these vital gathering spaces continue to be enjoyed by all.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. We now turn to our second question on dignity. Here's the video.
Hi, my name is Susie, and I'm a youth volunteer with ActionDignity. My question today is this: According to the 2019 census, Calgary is aging quickly. The number of young people and births have declined rapidly, while the number of senior citizens have skyrocketed. Also, Calgary is seeing a sustained increase in the number of immigrant, visible minority, and racialized persons arriving in the city. We know that international migration is critical for having a healthy population growth, and yet they experience so many barriers. As mayor, how will you maintain attracting working-age people from around the world and making it a welcoming environment for racialized immigrants?
Thank you very much, Susie. We will now hear from our mayoral candidates in response to this question. We will go in the order of Jeff Davison, Jeremy Farkas, Jan Dahmery, and Jyoti Gondak. Jeff Davison, if you can please start us off.
Well, thank you. First of all, I think keeping our children here is a priority. You know, young people today are not going to places like Vancouver and Toronto because it's cheaper. So we have to think about how we focus on place and business environment, innovation, and talent differently. Over the last 10 years, we have welcomed folks from over 150 countries to Calgary, and we're going to continue to need to rely on growth like that from all over the world if our economic strategy is going to be successful. All Calgarians must understand that having a diverse and inclusive city is being a welcoming city, and it's key to economic recovery. In addition to that, we have to think differently about our age in place opportunities for seniors, multi-generational living opportunities, looking at further funding for FCSS support initiatives, tax incentives for our seniors who are aging in place, and then think about how affordability and affordable housing play into an overall healthy economy.
Thank you, Jeff. Up next, we have Jeremy Farkas.
Thank you. I came from a very proud immigrant family, and my father came to Canada as a refugee. And I'm so happy that our community welcomed him with open arms. You can accomplish a lot in the city that just isn't possible anywhere else as long as you're willing to work. The problem, though, is that more and more City Hall seems to be standing in the way of opportunity rather than helping to create it. I think our next mayor and council need to champion and support newcomer organizations such as the Calgary Immigrant Women's Association. We need to provide absolutely every Calgarian with the knowledge and supports that they need to be able to address the settlement challenges that they face, specifically related to employment and community engagement. I think every community has different settlement challenges, so it's going to take a strong combination of settlement and integration in order to be able to address things like language training, employment services, and family services to be able to get it done. And while this is not all within the City Hall's legal jurisdiction, I'd look to be able to collaborate with other orders of government to move quicker for things like skills accreditation so that those who come with experience and expertise can get moving into jobs quicker.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Up next, we have Jan Dahmery.
Thanks so much. The Calgary I believe in is filled with opportunity and welcoming to all and safe for all, but that's not the Calgary we're seeing today. We've got people leaving, they can't find work, including my 24-year-old stepson. We have racialized women walking around our streets with bear spray because they feel unsafe. We have people fearing to go downtown and be on the C train. Young people say there's nothing to do. And again, leadership that we need right now is to move into action. We have lots of plans, but we need to move to action. And the things that I am talking about in my platform include creating Calgary Opportunity District, which is revitalizing our downtown and really developing and nurturing 10,000 tourism jobs, taking meaningful action on climate change, another 4,000 green jobs, making Calgary the center for green tech, training and retraining Calgarians, help with our startups and helping our unicorns to grow from the grassroots up. This is the trick to diversification. More people living and working downtown, more people out and about in our communities, that is safety, that's community safety. And we've got to make sure that our government is reflective of the diversity in our community. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jan. Up next, we have Jyoti Gondak.
We have to begin by ensuring that we recognize all work as being important and meaningful, and recognizing that a lot of newcomers that come to our city are taking on roles in sectors that are often overlooked and undervalued. And municipal leaders have a responsibility to ensure that we're connecting with newcomer communities to really appreciate how we can best meet their needs. The city has to be committed to providing a strong public transit network. We have to provide access to safe and affordable childcare. We have to make sure that our communities are complete with the amenities that people need for their daily routine. And we need to take some serious action on being an anti-racist city. Our partnerships with post-secondary institutions are also critical because that's where the reskilling happens that's often needed for newcomers. And we have to push our provincial and federal partners to ensure that credential recognition for newcomers is a priority so they can go about the meaningful work that they came here to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jyoti. You will now have your 15 seconds for additional remarks, and we'll go in the same order. So Jeff Davison, please start us off.
I agree. I think recognizing international skill and moving on that is absolutely critical. Thinking about how we even could do technology passports to ensure that as we're bringing very talented people to our city, they're able to hit the ground running in the jobs that they're actually qualified for.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Up next, Jeremy.
One thing we've seen is that red tape and high taxes have really been shackling those trying to embrace opportunities. So I think with City Hall getting out of the way, we can once again make very clear to entrepreneurs that this is the place to be if you want to succeed.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Jan?
We have an opportunity to truly restore the heart and soul of our city by including everyone in our recovery. And this means removing barriers to employment, to settlement, to affordable housing. We need to make our streets safer for everyone. This is where we have to invest. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jen. Lastly, Jyoti.
A lot of times people that come here as newcomers stay in our city because they love it. And I think it's important that they see themselves reflected on City Council. We need to normalize diversity on City Council.
Thank you very much, everyone. We will now turn to our third question on the future of our city. Here's the recording.
I am Dr. Tsaggai Gebra, an ethno-cultural broker of ActionDignity. As a mayoral candidate, how would you balance Calgary's future growth in both the developed and developing areas of the city? On related question, what is your view on increasing density in the inner city? How would you address sprawl or uncontrolled outward expansion of urban areas? How would you ensure the existing underserviced areas of the city get their fair share of the services? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tsaggai, for posing that question. We will now hear from our mayoral candidates in response to the question. We will go in the order of Jeff Davison, Jan Dahmery, Jyoti Gondek, and Jeremy Farkas. Jeff Davison, if you can please start us off.
Sure. Well, thank you. I think let's do both. It's about balance. It's about responsibly developing with choice in mind that maintains affordability. That's a key value proposition of Calgary. And so when we have affordable product choice, that also helps us attract and retain people here. But we have to be clear about expanding our tax base, not our tax rate. And so looking at opportunities around transit-oriented development, downtown development, and include that with growing the number of taxpayers, which can all reduce the tax load on everyone. Some families are going to want backyards. Young people are going to want a vibrant inner city lifestyle. It's critical, though, that we look at those key pockets of opportunity because they're our biggest opportunity. And when you think about, when you couple transportation with opportunity, that's where we have significant opportunity with Green Line to think about how we actually affect a proactive means of transit-oriented development while we're building a train line.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Up next, we have Jan Dahmery.
Thanks so much. You know, I think this whole issue is about placing neighborhoods at the center of our planning, and trust has been broken with Calgarians, particularly by this existing council. And we are lacking services still almost 20 years later, particularly in the north. We've got to work to rebuild trust if we're going to achieve the balance between established and greenfield communities. We pit them against each other right now. Neighborhoods need to be consulted first. When we vision wider areas first, to find common solutions, this actually discounts what neighborhoods and what they feel that they're interested in. And again, this trust has been broken. We've got to rebuild this if we're actually going to meet our municipal development goals of a 50-50 split between development and developing areas. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jan. Up next, we have Jyoti.
So we have a municipal development plan that actually states our target should be 50% growth in new areas and 50% in established areas. And we simply never revisit those targets. So what the council did in 2015 was create a system by which new communities could pay for themselves. It was a levy-based system. And it was this concept that if there was to be growth, it would have to pay for itself. I think a lot of time was spent on trying to get that model right, so much so that we ignored how do we support our established areas? And I think we missed the boat on investing capital in redeveloping areas. So it was a pleasure at the beginning of 2020 to find $30 million to create a seed fund to provide amenities for redeveloping communities, to make sure that they have proper sidewalks and parks if they're taking on more growth. And I think it's going to be important to unpack our capital budgets and move money out of building oversized roadways and put it towards those established communities having the things that they need to have a good quality of life. And we have to make sure that every neighborhood in Calgary is able to accommodate different people at different stages of life. We have to make sure seniors can age in place in their community, that they have access to smaller homes as needed. We have to make sure that young families are able to call any community home. It's really about building Calgary communities for everyone.
Thank you very much, Jyoti. And up next, we have Jeremy Farkas.
I think there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and we need to make sure that we keep Calgary affordable. I think that we need to build up and out. I think we can set levies and fees for new communities appropriately so that the development pays for itself, and existing city residents are not required to subsidize development. But I'll say I don't support the city's ideological pushes for density, namely the guidebook for great communities. I think that the guidebook was a veiled attempt to put an end to single-family home communities in the inner city. And I think that that's the exact wrong approach. Owning a single-family home with room, say for a growing family and a backyard for pets, it's something that many people work towards during their entire lives. Buying a home is the largest investment that most people will ever make. And I think that they deserve to have more certainty and influence over the kind of change that occurs in their neighborhood. So if elected, I'll push to reverse the guidebook and start the process over with genuine public consultation that should have happened in the first place. Lastly, I grew up in East Calgary and Dover, and I didn't realize it until I was older how underserved my area of the city was compared to other parts of the city. So many people get elected and forget the people that they serve, where they came from. I've never forgotten where I came from.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, and everyone. You will now have your 15 seconds for additional remarks. We will go in the same order. So Jeff Davison, if you can please start us off.
Well, regardless of how we develop, communities require equitable investment. And like we've seen in the Northeast, there's been a lack of recreational fields, swimming pools, things for kids to do. And so I'd be committed to ensuring that Northeast Calgary gets an equitable shake.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Next, we have Jan Dahmery.
Thanks so much. I just want to make the observation that all of the existing councillors running for mayor all voted for communities that won't pay for themselves over time. This was against the advice of administration, and Mayor Nenshi himself was right to vote against these approvals. These approvals actually are raising our taxes long-term. This is actually what.
Thank you so much, Jan. Up next, we have Jyoti.
I think it's important to focus on what the outcome should be. And that should be creating communities where people can afford a home, where they can send their kids to school, and where they can easily go about their daily routine. If we focus on people, we will get development right.
Thank you very much. And lastly, we have Jeremy Farkas.
Well, the record shows that I actually voted against the recent Foothills annexation. You can Google that. But I've not supported development blindly. I want to make sure that every single Calgarian has the same opportunity for success, and that we treat every single neighborhood equally for investment.
Thank you, Jeremy. We will now turn to our fourth question on mental health with Linda Miller.
My name is Linda Miller. I'm the co-chair of the Calgary Alliance's mental health team. The question we have for the candidates is this. An eco-pandemic of mental health concerns is occurring and growing. The City of Calgary's mental health strategy, a community of connections, is funded and in place until 2023, halfway through your term if elected. At the end of this initiative, What are your plans to continue to support the mental health of Calgarians? How would you ensure that it is accessible and appropriate for the diversity present in Calgary?
Thank you, Linda. We will now hear from our mayoral candidates in response to this question in the following order: Jody Gondek, Jan Damery, Jeff Davison, and then Jeremy Farkas. Jody, please start us out.
Thank you very much. I think one of the important things is the approach that we took to our mental health and addiction strategy, and that was for the city to be a convener. And what's important about this is the city didn't profess to be the expert in mental health, because we're not. So it was a pleasure to see so many people with lived experience and professional experience come together to give us some great ideas on how the program should be executed. And that's really where the idea of Change Can't Wait, a small grant program, came about. And we have been able to disperse really meaningful dollars to community-based organizations who have been able to serve diverse communities in Calgary. And I think we have a bit of a problem at the city where we consider a pilot to be a thing that gets done and put away. We really need to make sure that pilot projects are understood as trials for something that needs to be made more permanent. And I will be committed to making sure that our budgeting processes include a way to keep the mental health and addiction strategy top of mind and properly funded.
Thank you, Jody. Jan Damery is our next speaker.
Thanks so much. This is such a pervasive issue, I think, for all of us, certainly as we live through this pandemic. I actually call the mental health is sort of the shadow pandemic. And also we've got to acknowledge the link between addiction, mental health, petty crime, erratic behaviors on the street that is forcing people not to feel safe. This means we've got to get at the root causes that are actually impacting people on their mental health. We can't be weaponizing the justice system to deal with this. This is very much about dedicating resources to fund in a predictable way so we actually can bring the experts. I know this for sure because of the work I've done in the not-for-profit sector. We have expertise in this sector that we actually have to give sustainable funding to in partnership with the city. So we can also increase the expanded reach of these services to people that are going to need them, particularly as we come out of this pandemic. We have to move beyond symbolism, and just saying that you're going to fund this while cutting taxes means you're actually proposing to cut other vital services when Calgarians are in need. We have to come to terms with this. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jan. Our next speaker is Jeff Davison.
Thank you. We need action, and the pandemic has proven that. It's time to now act. It's time to get things done. It's time to stop wasting money on initiatives that have not been working in decades. And so as we entered through the mental health and addiction strategy, for me, I've always planned from the beginning that this would require follow-on funding. But now that we have assessed the needs, we have the data, we can now fund the outcomes we desire. And so now is the time to move past those expensive roadblocks and actually get things done efficiently. To anybody who says we shouldn't be looking at proactive investment in policing, just come for a walk after 5 p.m. downtown with me. Tell me if you feel safe, because you don't. What we need is more officers on the street, not brick and mortar. Last time I checked, bricks and glass don't scare people away, but having a police presence and dealing proactively with social disorder, now that's something I can invest in because that's an outcome we all desire.
Thank you, Jeff. Now we move to Jeremy Farkas.
I am so proud to have been a co-sponsor of the mental health strategy at the city, and I supported this from day one. And absolutely, if elected mayor, I'd be proud to continue to support it and provide the resources necessary. I think while we need to provide resources for our police, I think we also need to understand that these are issues that we can't necessarily police our way out of. So I strongly support the DOPE team and other preventative measures. Right around the time that the downtown police station closed, the supervised consumption site was opened, and it resulted in a lot of negative outcomes for the surrounding community, as well as really impacted our ability to be able to fill some of these office towers. And representing the Beltline, so many of my constituents feel unsafe today walking near their homes and their businesses, and it's just not right. Every single Calgarian will know someone who struggles with mental health or addiction, and recognizing this, I supported that mental health and addiction strategy from day one. I'm happy to continue supporting it. And getting people out of the cycle of addiction needs a wide variety of prevention and crisis management tools in place. We can't just perpetuate the cycle. We need to make sure that the support is there for the victims of drug addiction and that there's a clear path forward for everyone.
Thank you, Jeremy. We're now going to move to 15 seconds for additional comments, starting with Jody.
The question was around mental health and supports, and there have been some pretty ethnocentric assumptions made around policing, helping mental health. I think it's incredibly important to understand the experiences of marginalized communities and ensure that we destigmatize seeking help for mental health.
Thank you, Jody. We're now going to move to Jan Damery.
Hi. I just want to point out again that existing council treated this as a pilot project committee, and the funding is running out in 2023. Which has put existing agencies in tremendous peril because they don't know if the funding's coming. We have to fund these programs, commit to them.
Thank you, Jan. We're now moving to Jeff Davison.
Well, it's simple. This needs funding. And again, this is a long-term solution. And if we leave change to other people, change will never happen.
Thank you, Jeff. Let's move on to Jeremy.
Yeah, I would just say there's a financial imperative and a moral imperative on this issue. It's not either or. We can and we must be proactive on these issues rather than just respond as we have in crisis mode. And I think it's an incredible success of local organizations that have proven this Made in Calgary solution works.
Thank you, Jeremy. We will now be moving to our fifth question, which centers on responding to Calgary's climate needs. It's brought to us by Adrita Hake.
Hi, I'm Adrita with the Calgary Climate Hub. And my question to the candidates is, how will you ensure that the Calgary Climate Resilience Strategy is successful? So what are the top 3 areas that you would focus on? What specific actions will you take? And how will you reduce Calgarians' vulnerabilities to extreme weather events, which is already known to increase inequalities in our system?
Thank you, Adrita. We will now hear from our mayoral candidates in response to this question. We'll start with Jody Guntek, then proceed to Jeremy Farkas, Jeff Davison, and Jan Damery. So starting with you, Jody.
Thank you very much. I think the first thing we have to do is issue a declaration around a climate crisis. That's a bold move and one that needs to be taken if we truly believe in climate action. Number one, I would ensure that all city-owned buildings are able to go through what they call a mechanical insulation energy audit. Pretty fancy term, but ultimately it's been done in Edmonton, and they figured out ways to make buildings more energy efficient by creating proper cooling and heating insulation techniques. Secondly, we need to change decision-making to be through the lens of resilience according to the work of the 100 Resilient Cities program. That would allow us to make sure that any decisions we make consider the climate. And number 3, we need to seek to be much more aggressive about our emissions targets. And we need to tap into federal grants that are available to us if we are showing that we wish to be a greener city. I think one of the things that we have done well is implement the Clean Energy Improvement Program, which is very much like the PACE program. The city made dollars available to citizens who wish to retrofit the homes that they live in, and you can pay it back through your property taxes. So we've taken some action. We need to take much more.
Thank you, Jody. Our next speaker is Jeremy Farkas.
I'd say flood mitigation is really top of mind for me and many Calgarians. When it comes to another flood, it's not a matter of if, but when. And almost 10 years after 2013, we still don't have adequate flood mitigation for our inner city. I'm going to continue to be a strong advocate for upstream mitigation to make Calgary truly resilient to disaster. There's so many benefits, obviously, economically and socially. Next, I'm the only one here who actually voted against ENMAX's acquisition of Mayoral and its nuclear waste dump. I believe that Calgarians, and by extension ENMAX, can and should be a force for good in this world. But unfortunately, this decision to chase profit, whether it be this example or the decision, say, to begin selling off parks, are in direct conflict with what I think our moral obligations are. Next, I absolutely agree we need to do our part for the climate, and that means strongly supporting Calgary's energy industry. Fossil fuels will continue to be our primary source of energy for many decades to come. And while this is the case, it should be Alberta and Canada meeting that need. So Alberta is an ethical, responsible producer of oil and gas, and there's no reason that other parts of Canada should get their energy from places like Saudi Arabia instead of right here at home.
Thank you, Jeremy. Our next speaker is Jeff Davison.
Thanks. First, I think we have to recognize there is a climate emergency, and it is needed to be taken seriously, and any serious mayoral candidate should have a strategy around the environment. I think we have to continue to invest in a robust climate strategy. And so innovation plays a key role in Energy 2.0, agriculture, investing in things like the blue economy and vertical farming, thinking about how we utilize our talent here and push forward on capitally viable decarbonization projects. But then how do we adapt our physical plan to reduce the impact of extreme weather? So of course, flood mitigation, construction materials so that we are more hail resistant, but also thinking innovatively about how do we lessen our water consumption from rivers and take gray water from things like the Bonnybrook Waste Treatment Facility and put that into steam facilities that we're now seeing through cogen plants through NMAX. And so there's a lot of things there that I think the city can be doing, including increasing our tree canopy, pushing for naturalization of roadways, a net zero infrastructure policy, electrification of fleet. But ideally, even Green Line is a great way that not only are we giving people access to transportation that's clean and efficient, it's also access to opportunity. And those are big ticket things that we have to push forward with if we ever hope to have an impact on our climate locally.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Jan Dahmery is our next speaker.
Thanks so much. Council has to take leadership on this critical issue, and this current council has set targets and we have failed to meet them consistently. We've got to invest in solutions that also deal with the size of the problem that we're facing. We have to move beyond symbolic gestures. In my detailed plan, I'm proposing actually incentives and accountability so that our city departments can actually meet their emissions targets. We need to steward NMEX, being the sole shareholder, to get them to net zero earlier than 2050. And we've got to also help both our residents and businesses invest in energy efficiency, one of the key ways to reduce our carbon footprint in this city. We have to put our money where our mouth is, and it means investments we make now save us long term. We have a growing carbon tax levy that is going to cost all of us down the road, and by 2030 at current rates, about $1.8 billion. This is really incredible, and we have to show leadership on this, and it's about action.
Thank you, Jan. We now are moving to 15 seconds for any additional comments, starting with Jody.
I think it's important to listen to people who tell us how we can make declaring a climate crisis work for us. The consul to the UK has explained to us very clearly that if we make this commitment to climate action, there is capital that can flow from many places globally. Let's take advantage of it.
Thank you, Jody. We're now going to move to Jeremy Farkas.
Thanks. And as the world looks for newer, cleaner sources of energy, I think Alberta has tremendous opportunity to be a center for energy innovation. Our energy industry has already proved it has the expertise and the drive to find innovative solutions. And I think it's going to be this attitude that helps pave the way for the energy of the future.
Thank you, Jeremy. We're now going to move to Jeff Davison.
I think we have to get all Calgarians excited about climate. I mean, we have a significant opportunity to continue to solve some of the world's biggest challenges around affordable, sustainable energy and food security. And that's a big win for Calgarians.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll now move to Jan Dahmery.
Thanks so much. Time for listening and missed targets has passed. We need to act. We need to mobilize collective action. And I've got a specific plan to do this. Thanks.
Thank you very much, everyone. There's quite a lot for us to process here today. And now we turn to our sixth question on the budget. We saved the best for last. Here's the video.
My name is Mizon Lake-Evan, and I'm with Cerebral Palsy Alberta. Tonight, you have made several promises of what you will do as mayor. Budgets are where we see people's real priorities. How will you find the money to pay for these promises and existing services? If elected, how will you raise revenues? What areas would you look at cutting, and where would you prioritize investing?
Thank you very much, Ms. On, for the question. We will now hear from our mayoral candidates in response to this question. We'll go in the order of Jeff Davison, Jan Dahmery, Jody Gondek, and Jeremy Farkas. Jeff Davison, if you can please start us off.
Sure. Well, I think we've got to move past expensive roadblocks and start to think about how we get things done more efficiently. Start investing in the outcomes we need. So things like public safety, snow removal, affordable housing. Value for money means creating returns we all care about. And so finding efficiencies that deliver a better service for less, like winter pathway shoveling and parking amalgamation. You know, we don't need two departments doing one thing. We can be more efficient with our money and make our money work better for us. The key to it, though, is accelerating investment and growth opportunities to drive revenue behind that. Because going forward, we have to have a serious focus on what post-COVID recovery looks like to ensure that no Calgarian gets left behind.
Thank you very much, Jeff Davison. Up next, we have Jan Dahmery.
Thanks so much. I think many of you know that I'm an economist, so it's all about financial sustainability, both short-term, long-term. And I've laid out a plan to finance these infrastructure and climate investments that use existing reserves, that utilize existing federal and provincial programs, and also a community revitalization levy. It's the same way that we've actually revitalized East Village over the downtown area to fund these critical, important investments that actually save us money long-term. I've also developed a tax plan that caps taxes in line with population growth and inflation. We're already seeing pressure on the services that Calgarians need and rely on. And so talking about cutting taxes at a time, in this vulnerable time as we're recovering, is just not feasible. And so we've got to ensure that we are promising people what we can deliver on. And again, back to an earlier question that we talked about, we have committed to new communities that actually are increasing costs for services down the road. So we've got to look at added efficiencies and making sure that we are using the existing resources more effectively to make these short-term investments for long-term gain. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jan Dahmery. Up next, we have Jyoti Gondak.
Thank you very much. I've spent the last 4 years on council bringing about budget reform ideas by asking questions around how we are looking at revenue streams and then setting operating budgets. I've been able to find funding dollars for community amenities through a community service levy fund that was previously not examined for such purposes. I was able to uncover $48 million in investment income that we then allocated towards keeping both the fire and public transit budgets whole in 2020 and 2021. So I've learned how to read the reports that indicate how we can best leverage the dollars that we have. And I think we also need to take advantage of a regional approach to economic development. Calgary is deemed to be a very strong inland port, and yet we are at odds with our regional partners most of the time. If we have a strong infrastructure network that is perfect for supply chain management, let's make sure we're working with other regional municipalities to share the costs and the benefits that come from a regional model of economic development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jyoti Gondak. Up next, Jeremy Farkas.
I'd say don't listen to our words, but witness our actions. In 2019, Council had an opportunity to fund the following list of programs. First, an emergency shelter program to help women establish a life free of family violence and abuse. Secondly, the Aboriginal Friendship Center's program to support children suffering from intergenerational trauma. Thirdly, the Alex Food and Wellness program that helps the very poorest in our city access food. But what did council do? In the very same meeting, they voted to cut these programs so that they could hand over hundreds of millions of dollars to the Flames for a new arena. So many people in Calgary today are struggling to keep their homes and to live safe lives. And I don't believe for a moment that our city has a revenue problem. In fact, I think Calgarians are overtaxed. From 2010 to 19, the city collected $1.3 billion in surplus revenues, and that gets stashed away to fund a laundry list of council pet projects, things like the failed Olympic bid. So I'll be championing a 4-year property tax freeze. Between reserves, efficiencies, and projected surpluses, there's more than enough room to achieve this without drastic cuts to service. And renowned economist Jack Mintz has examined my plan and finds it to be realistic.
Thank you very much, Jeremy Farkas. You will now have your 15 seconds for additional remarks, and we will go in the same order. So Jeff Davison, please start us off.
Well, thank you. I think Calgarians need financial security going forward. A strong recovery gives all Calgarians the opportunity they deserve, and that's what we have to focus on.
Thank you very much, Jeff Davison. Up next, Jan Dahmery.
Thanks so much. We need to invest in solutions now to save money later, making Calgary a place where we want to buy homes, where we want to start a business, and where people want to raise their families. We can't cut our way to our future.
Thank you very much, Jan Dahmery. Jyoti Gondak.
I think it's incredibly important to be unafraid to invest in social good in this city. We have to make sure that we're supporting people in positions of vulnerability. And if that means using the budget to do it, we can't be afraid to do so.
Thank you very much, Jody Gondak. Lastly, we have Jeremy Farkas.
I think Calgarians deserve a break after 10 long years of tax increases. And I feel that I'm the only candidate on the stage that has the record to show that I'll follow through on my promises.
Thank you, Jeremy. We're actually running a bit ahead of time, which means that we can give candidates a little bit more time with their final comments. We're now going to give each candidate 2 minutes for their final comments. So we'll be in this order: Jody Gondak, Jan Dahmery, Jeremy Farkas, and then Jeff Davison. Jody, could you please start us out?
Thank you very much, and thanks for such an engaging conversation. You know, Calgary is an amazing city. It is beautiful, it is welcoming, it is affordable. We have all of those things going for us. And what we need to do now is be very intentional about our future. We need to declare that we are a center of excellence for a transitioning economy, one that is solutions-based. It's going to be very important for us to welcome people here who want to use innovation and technology to bring about sustainability, greener and cleaner solutions for all of our industries across sectors. And that work is already happening here. We already have an organization that has set up a center for clean energy. We already have a carbon removal accelerator program that has started downtown. We are attracting talent, and we are attracting people who want to do social good in their work. Calgary has always been a beautiful city. It continues to be. We have to imagine our future in a way that's different. We have to be intentional about our reputation, and we have to get out from under the shadow of our province. We have to own our place on the global stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Our next speaker is Jan Damery. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And I just so enjoyed the conversation, and so great to see the various perspectives, because as I started out, this is about choice of leadership and how we drive the future of this city. Another reason that I'm running to be mayor is out of just a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunities that I have been given in this city. And we are not seeing that, particularly for our children and our future generations. And so this is about coming together and having leadership that can bring us together, that we can actually drive forward to create opportunity for all. I believe with my extensive experience as an economist, I worked in complex organizations in all sectors and have a reputation for bringing people together to get big things done. And I believe together we can generate new jobs for all. And we can do this by supercharging our tech and innovation sector as we can become the green tech center of and energy transitions in our city. That means too that we can work with our post-secondary education institutions to make downtown a neighborhood by siting larger campuses downtown. So we've got students living, working, and learning downtown. We have an opportunity to be a magnet for the world, to live, learn, work, and play because of the natural assets we've got. We can actually build a train from the airport to downtown onto Banff that makes it easy, both for our locals, but also for our tourists to get in and out and enjoy. But Calgary becomes the base that drives a vibrant local economy. We've already talked about how critical it is to take meaningful action on climate change. We've got to reduce our energy footprint. We have the opportunity to restore the heart and soul of our city by ensuring everyone is included in this recovery, and we have to remove barriers to employment, to settlement, and we have to make our streets safer, and we have to tackle systemic racism and misogyny. I'm Jan Damery, and I'm running for mayor because I so believe in this city, and Calgary deserves better in its leadership. There is a choice beyond the existing councillors. If you look at their track record, none of them deserve a promotion. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jan. Jeremy Farkas is our next speaker.
All right, thanks for the opportunity. And I wanted to use this chance to make very clear that I support vaccination. I've been personally vaccinated, and I encourage others to do so if they're able. Vaccination is safe and effective. And I understand after mishandling by the provincial government why some want the city hall to step in and try to fix things. But I did not agree with the city bringing in its own additional vaccine passport requirements on what the province had already implemented. And the provincial government is in charge of health, and my focus has always been on ways that the city hall can help within our own areas of control rather than make a bad situation worse. This election, I'd say, is really about change versus more of the same. And as we're in the final stretch of the campaign, I expect that smear attacks from some of the other politicians will continue, but I want to continue to be focusing on the positive. Many of us will be saying many of the same things tonight. So the question for you as voters is really, who do you actually believe to follow through? I learned very quickly that I can't be all things to all people, but sometimes you have to take a stand on behalf of your constituents. And again, my priority is around financial responsibility, getting our budget under control. Next, around open and transparent government, better including Calgarians in the decision-making process. And lastly, around secure and vibrant communities through support for our police and other essential services. So thank you again to the organizers tonight for your consideration and the opportunity to be here with you. And I know more than ever that Calgary has what it takes to come back stronger than ever. And it's time now for City Hall to work for the people again. I'm Jeremy Farkas, and that's why I'm asking for your vote on October 18th. Change starts now.
Thank you, Jeremy. And our final speaker, Jeff Davison.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for this opportunity. You know, I care about all Calgarians, and that's what I'm here to represent. And I think tonight you've heard a lot of different viewpoints about Calgary's future. I'm just going to say I have the experience needed to unite the next council and to work for all Calgarians. And past behavior is the most reliable predictor of future behavior. Being mayor is a vital role that requires experience. And frankly, my last 4 years on council have shown what I'll do over the next 4 years. I've worked with the experts. We have a plan. It's time to get to work. And as your mayor, I'm going to help this city grow to over 2 million residents, a city that's thriving, dynamic, and affordable for all. And it's all made possible because of where we live and because of who we've been able to attract to this increasingly vibrant city. It's going to take leadership, like I've shown over the last 4 years. It's going to involve Calgarians saying yes. I know it's easy to say no. That's the easy path out. We've got some tough work ahead, but getting to yes is the right answer. It's time to stop writing off Calgary's future and assuming our pages are already written. Our future is what we want it to be. My kids depend on it, and so do yours. As a lifelong Calgarian, all I can tell you is this: the comeback of our lifetime starts now, and I am committed to making it happen for each and every Calgarian.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, it's time for us to wrap up. The Calgary Alliance for the Common Good and ActionDignity would like to extend their thanks to the mayoral candidates who shared with us their perspectives and plans tonight. We'd also like to thank all of those behind the scenes who worked hard to make this event happen. Thank you so much. We want to encourage everyone to have conversations with your families and your friends about the issues that matter in your community, and also about what you've heard here tonight. We also want to encourage everyone to vote. Please note that advanced polling will start on October 4th to October 10th. And if you're wondering about the voting process, there will be links in the chat to help guide you. Your vote matters for this crucial election.
If you'd like to get involved or learn more about the Calgary Alliance for the Common Good and ActionDignity, the links to the websites will be provided in the chat. We look forward to working together with the candidates successful during this election. Thank you all so much for dedicating your evening to be here with us, and I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you.